All right, now we're on to part 5 of section 1.5. So here we're going to combine transformations. So everything we've looked at all the way from the beginning of 1.5 to now, we're going to combine them all together. So we're going to have vertical transformations, horizontal transformations, all combined into one new function. And so when we combine vertical transformations, and it's going to be written in the form a times f of x plus k, we're going to first vertically stretch by the a. So we're, whatever it is, we're going to take 3 times whatever our y value is. And then we're going to do the vertical shift by k. So if k is positive, we're going to shift up. And so we'll have two things we do. We do the vertical stretch first, and then the vertical shift. Now when we combine horizontal transformations, they're going to be written in one of two forms. They're going to be either written in the form b times x minus h, in which case we first horizontally shift by h and then stretch by 1 over b. Or we have another way to do it. Sometimes it's easier if it's in the form b times x minus h, because then, we have this b, which we know what to do with, and we have this h, which we know, what to do with. And what we can do then is we first horizontally stretch by 1 over b, and we just take 1 over b and do the stretch, and then we horizontally shift by h. So if h is positive, we move right. If it's negative, we go left. Now, horizontal and vertical transformations are independent of each other, so it doesn't matter which one you do first, horizontal or vertical. So you can go either direction. Now, performing a sequence of transformations for general. And as you noticed up here when I was talking, for vertical, we're going to follow orders of operations. Your PEMDAS, parentheses, exponents, multiply, divide, add, subtract. So what we're going to do is, in this case, usually all we have is multiplication and addition, and that's kind of how it works. And so we'll do multiplication first and then the addition. And if we think about it, we did the multiplication first, then the addition. Now, horizontal, like I said, we could do it this way, but it's easier if we do factoring. And factoring is really the best way to do these. And that way you have something in the form of the second one here. So we have some b and we have some h that we can easily recognize. And so what you do is, if we have something f of bx plus p, we want to factor out that b first. And so we factor out the b, and what's left? X plus. Now if you take and divide by b here, it's going to be p over b, and so that's going to be, ends up being what our h is. And so we get the stretch or compression first, the b, and then we shift by the p divided by b. Now for an example how this actually works with real numbers, say we have f of 2x plus 8. So we know we want to have just x here, and so we factor out the 2, and so that's what we do. And then when we factor out a 2 out of 2x, we have x. If we take a divide by 2 here, we have 4, and so that means we're going to have b is equal to 2, so we're going to have a compression by 1 over 2, and then we're going to shift left 4 units, because remember it's x minus h, and so here we have x plus 4, so it's going to be x minus a minus 4, and so we'll shift left 4 units. Okay. So what we want to do now is kind of plug all those things in and start making tables. And so we're going to kind of go down in order on how we would do this, on which line. Would we do the x's, or would we do the fx parts, or what would we do? And so here, let's do our horizontal piece first. Let's have our b here, part 2, our f of 2x part with a b of 2. And so we're going to do f of 2x, okay? So what does that mean? Well, that means we're going to have to take, and b becomes 2, but 1 over b is what we're going to multiply x by. So we're going to take 1 over 2 times each one of these values, and that's our new x. So 6 divided by 2 is 3. 10 divided by 2 is 5. 14 divided by 2 is 7. 18 divided by 2 is 9. And f of 2x, well, that just stays the same. 3, 6, 7, 8. And all I'm doing is I'm writing what the new function is at this point in time. All right, so then what do we want to do? Well, now let's take and do this a factor. Okay, so a is 3. And then here we had b was equal to 2, and here we have k is equal to a negative 1. So we have those 3 items. So now let's do 3 times f of 2x. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, that means we're going to take 3 times whatever f of 2x was. So that means our x in this case doesn't change. So that's 3, 5, 7, 9. So it just comes down to the next row. But now we're going to take 3 times this row. So 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 6 is 18. 3 times 7 is 21. 3 times 8 is 24. Okay. Now what's left? Well, now we have that minus 1, which means we're going to go down 1. We're shifting everything down 1. And so our x's, again, stay the same. We're just going to shift our values here down, and that's why I went ahead and wrote it down in here. And so we're just going to subtract 1 here. 9 minus 1, 8, 18 minus 1, 17, 21 minus 1, 20, 24 minus 1 is 23. Okay, and so, you know, the first step here, we did a horizontal compression. By 1 over 2 because our b was 2. Okay, and then we're going to do a vertical stretch here. And so that was by a factor of 3. And then all we did here was we did a vertical shift down. And we just did 1 unit down. Okay, so horizontal compression by half because b was 2, so it's 1 over 2. Then we did a vertical stretch by a factor of 3, and then we just shifted everything down by 1 unit because we had that vertical shift there. Okay. Now this one we're going to kind of work 2 ways. Graphically, we're going to transform this graph. Now, I also think it's important to be able to look at it in multiple ways. And so I decided I would also do a table, but we could actually directly just go from this graph and go through all the transformations that are shown in this here point and go and move things left, right, up, down, and get to the point we need to be. Okay. But first, notice we have 1/3 times x minus 1. And so we don't really have that in the form where we looked at before, f of b times x minus h. That's really the form I want to do. So that means I have to factor this first. And so my h of x is going to be equal to f of, I'm going to factor out 1/3. So my b is 1/3. And then I have x minus, now if I take 1 divided by 1/3, that gives me a 3. And then I have plus 2. Okay. So now I have to think about what do I want to do in what order. And it really doesn't matter what I do in what order. But what I'm going to do first is I'm going to do this first. Okay, and so what is that? That's going to be a horizontal stretch. And it's going to be by a factor of 3 because b is 1/3, so 1 over that is going to be 3. Okay, and then I think I'll do this here second. And what is that? Well, that's going to be shift to the right, horizontal shift to the right. And it's going to be by 3. Okay. And then I'll do this last third, and that's going to be a vertical shift up 3. Okay. And so again, we could do this all directly just on the graph and say, okay, we're going to do the horizontal stretch by 3, and so we'll do all that, and we can do all that. But I think I want to kind of show you what it would look like in the table. So what I've done is I've chosen points that were on the graph. So I've taken the minus 4, 6, and so minus 4, 6, and then we have this point here, 0, 2, and then I have over here 4, 6. And so those are my original x and f of x, because this is going to be, you know, this is my f of x here, and this is my x here if we want to look at it that way. Okay. So what are we going to do first? Well, first we're going to have to do what I said. We're going to have that horizontal stretch. So we're going to multiply all of our x's by 3. Okay. So x then is going to change, and we're going to have f basically of 1/3 and then times our x. That's what we're doing at this point here. We're kind of ignoring that -3 at this point. And so when we take and multiply by 3, that becomes a -12. That becomes 0, and that's a +12. And this is still 6 to 6. Okay. Now what do we want to do? Now we want to do the horizontal shift right by the 3. So this is the next part here. We're going to move everything to the right by 3. So, now what we have is x is -12, so we're going to be really way out here off the side, but it's going to still be at the same height. And it's going to be way over here at the +12, but it's still going to be at that 6. And so now what we're going to have is we're going to have our x's being, let's see, their x's are going to be shifted to the right 3. And so if we move this right 3, then we're going to move and say, well, that's now a -9. And if we move this one right 3, that's 3. And if we move this one right 3, that's 15. Now, our f of 1/3 x minus 3 is now, this is still the same, 6 to 6. So now we have the point -9, 6, 3, 2, 15, 6. Now, our final thing is we want this to be f of 1/3 x minus 3, and then we have +2. So that means what? Well, that means the x's aren't changing this time. We're moving the y's. And so that keeps that -9, that keeps that 3, that keeps that 15. But now we're moving up 2. So 6 plus 2 is 8, 2 plus 2 is 4, and 6 plus 2 again is 8. Okay. So what we've done is we've done all 3 of the transformations kind of step by step. So this is kind of the first, this is the second, and this is the third. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to basically go and we're going to draw this. So this is our original. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw what I have here. And so our first transformation, again, what we did was we horizontally stretched it by 3. And so we had our point 0, 2. So how do I want to do this? If I'm going to do I'm going to have to do, let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Yeah, these are going to have to be by 2s, all directions. And so 0, 2, these are by 2. So that would be here, if I can get a point to draw. And so that's the 0, 2. And we'll have 0, 2. Okay. And so that's this point here. Then I'll have a -12, 6. Because what I've done now is I've taken 3 times this -4. So I'm going to have a -12. So I'm going to have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, and then 2, 4, 6. And hopefully it'll stay there eventually. And then we'll have a positive 12, 6. And so we'll have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 2, 4, 6. And so now, again, drawing's probably not the best in the world. And so this was our x, and this is the f of 1/3 x. Now, the second transformation, we have x, and we had f of 1/3 x minus, and we had -3. Okay. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to plug in those. And so we know we're going to shift everything to the right 3. So if we had to shift this to the right 3, that now would become over here. So we'll shift this to the right 3. There's 2, 3. And we'll shift the 12, and then we'll go over 3 here. So we'll have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15. And we'll still go up 6. So something like that. And we'll go on this one, we're going to go 9 to the left because it was 9. So it's 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. up 6. And so now, again, that's what it's going to be. So we've now shifted it to the right 3. So our x now is -9. This is going to be a 3, and this is going to be a 15. We still have our 6 to 6. Okay. And so then our last one was going to be go up 2 units. And so then these just go up 2. And so 6 becomes 8, 2 becomes 4, and 6 becomes 8. And we still had our 15, and then our 3, and then our -9. And that was x. And this is f of 1/3 x minus 3, and in parentheses, and then plus 2. So we've gone up that. So now we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, and 2, 4, 6, 8. So we've gone up to that point there. And then we have the 3, 4. So we've gone over 3, then 2, 4. And then we've gone over 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15, and then 2, 4, 6, 8. And so now we basically done here. So as you can see, as we moved across, this not to scale unfortunately, but original one, if we put our original one, it would be the 0, 2, and then what was the original one here? Let me see. -4, 6, -2, 4, 1, 2, 4, 6. Well, here, and then we'll go over +4. So if we had our original one, something like that, and then what we did is we did the horizontal stretch. We went like that. And then after that, from that one, we shifted everything to the right, which is what we did here. And then after that, we shifted up, and then we moved everything up to the higher level. Okay. And so that's all I have for section 1.5.